Good moto morning. Welcome to another episode of Kraken's Garage. This is episode 1 of the restoration of a 21-year-old Vespa ET4. And what we're going to start with is replacing the battery. The original OEM equipment had a lead acid battery, and that tech I've talked about in the past is kind of outdated. This is a gel battery, a generic one off of Amazon. Very inexpensive. I don't know, $40 I want to say. I'll have a link down below if you're interested in this particular battery, but the specific size that works on this particular bike is a 𝕉𝕗𝕒𝕥-BS. So that's the battery that we're going to go with. We're going to install it in the bike, and basically what I'm looking for is to make sure that the bike turns over with the battery and the electrical system works. Now, I talked about why I don't want to replace tires, brake pads, flush the fuel, brake fluid, and all of that yet, is because it has to do three things. It needs to suck, bang, and blow. Suck air and fuel, go bang with that combustion in the piston, and blow the exhaust out the muffler. That's the 3 tasks that I'm going to ask this scooter to do, and it's not fair to it when it's 21 years old in disrepair. So we need to have spark, and this particular bike has an immobilizer built into the key. Yes, it has a Kickstarter. No, you can't start the bike without a battery in the bike to disarm the immobilizer in the key. So I'm very fortunate I have the key. If you don't have a set of keys and you're buying a used Vespa, I would walk away. It is very, very expensive to remove the immobilizer, send it in someplace like AF1 or Scooter West, have them reprogram it. It's going to cost you quite a bit of money, probably more than what the bike is worth at the end of the day by the time you get it all put back together. Now, regarding the tires, my friend Wayne, who worked in the tire business, SpyderWayne, is very bright to talk about tires. You might want to check his channel out about that info, but there's a date stamp on every single tire, and it's a 4-digit number, and the first 2 numbers represent the week the tire was made. So if it was in week 52, it was made in the last week of the year, and the second 2 digits would be the year. So if it was like 99, so if it was 5299, it was made in the last week of the year in 2099, and so on and so forth. So a good rule of thumb is inspect your tires, look for cracks, for which this one does have cracks in it. They're very old tires and need to be replaced. It's a costly item. I'm not going to do that till I get it running. That's how you inspect your tires. And a real quick shout out to Marco in, I believe, Italy. I could be wrong. I don't know geographically where he's from, but he wrote me a very nice email in Italian and was kind enough to translate it in English for me down below in the same email. And basically he said, reach out to him if you need an electrical diagram of how this bike was put together, as well as a service manual, because he belongs to a forum and they have access to those files. And Marco, thanks for your help. I appreciate it. I'm sure I'll be reaching out to you. Okay, we're going to install this battery. A lot of people remove these battery trays, and you shouldn't. This secures the battery to keep it from sliding around, which will shorten the life of the battery. It's kind of tricky, but when you find it seated, she'll lay down flush. Now, the first connector you should connect should be the positive side, because you run the risk when you're hooking up your battery of grounding out to some metal somewhere on the bike. And that would lead to sparks and bad things, possibly ruining some of your wiring harness. So let's get this installed. We'll install the positive first. We're going to put the block in horizontally because these tabs that lay flat like that. Now, whenever you're changing your battery, you should get a brass brush and scrub all the crud and buildup off the battery leads, which I've already done. Hopefully you can see that, to make sure you get a good solid connection. You should really give those a really firm tightening. You should use probably a number 2 Phillips or a GIS screwdriver. It's going to have the larger tip on it that's more appropriate. If you have access to these terminals and can get a ratchet on them, it's always a 10 millimeter, even on domestic made American bikes and things like that. As you can see, I've scrubbed these all connectors to make sure that they have a good solid connection. Okay, on to the next step. Next, you should never crank the motor over until you made sure that it has enough oil in it. We're going to pull the dipstick here. I know Scooter West sells a replacement of this oil pan that has a sight window on it. That's just kind of nice, but that's a kind of a luxury item on an old bike like this. Oil doesn't look too bad. Let's screw it in all the way to check your oil. Make sure the bike is level on the center stand. And we're right smack dab in the middle. I don't know if you can see that. So that's good. We have oil. I obviously am going to replace it before we get this on the road. Okay, let's switch her on. It's good, the oil light came on. Backlit gauges came on. Let's check the turn signals. It's blinking in the rear, blinking in the front. Blinking in the front, blinking in the rear. That's some bonus points. We'll check the horn. You can hear it's not making contact very well. All these switches are easily replaceable and they're pretty cheap, so I think just using the horn, maybe I'll take it apart and sand it a little bit, the contact points, to give it a better connection. And make sure it's on run. Headlight works. High beam and low beam work, and here we go. This is a mechanical brake on the left. It's all cable driven, so there's nothing really to go bad on that. Now the front brake, the good news is that it's not collapsing all the way down, so it just probably needs flush. Fingers crossed on that. But either way, part of the reason why you need to have a battery to start it, even with the Kickstarter, is you have to have the brake light on, which it is. And here we go. So that's really great news from where I'm sitting, because the whole electrical system seems to be working just fine. All the lights, horn, starter, that works. And most importantly, that turning over, you can hear the starter fighting the compression as it's loping to get over each one of the compressions of that piston. If the piston didn't have much compression, it would just spool up quickly. That's a big W for a win all the way across the board on my first initial test. Now, before I start replacing all the rubber tidbits that have crapped out on this bike, hoses, intake manifolds, stuff like that, this is a carburetor rebuild kit I bought on Amazon. I was blown away by these because I have bought many of these over the years. Specifically, I'll look for one with brass jets in it and needle valves, things of that nature. Brass is going to be your best friend regarding rebuilding a carburetor. And of course, it comes with a new gasket. I've bought these 100 times. I'm exaggerating. I've bought these many times for in the neighborhood of $5 to $6 for the whole kit. $25. I'm continuously blown away on what things cost as little as a couple of years ago versus what I'm paying for in today's world. Just a quick side note, if you decide to go with a lead acid battery, you're going to need a venting hose that comes down and spits it out at the bottom of the bike. This one doesn't have it. So in the next episode, we're going to remove the pet carrier, pull the carburetor, and get that torn apart and start to rebuild it. I'm also going to, before I remove the carburetor, spray this inside with a non-chemical, a biodegradable degreaser, and get 20 years worth of nasty and crud off of this area that I'm about to dive into. So that's all I got for you today.
I know what I like, baby, I like you. Miss American Pie with the high.
Remember, folks, go riding because it's good for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
In the afternoon, 'cause I know what I like.